Shalom. All glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rahakodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach the Bible correctly. Shalom to the elect, 144,000 men, and shalom to the great peaceable multitude of men, women, and children, the 1/3. Shalom. To you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you are the 12 tribes of Israel. These are your true identities. Today's article is brought to you by New York Post, titled New York Tests Doomsday Missile Off California Coast as War in Iran Rages. Verify the effectiveness. Let's see how this sounds real quick.
The Minuteman III ballistic missile.
The Minuteman IL ballistic missile, which is capable of carrying nuclear warheads 20 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, launched from Vandenberg Space Force Base near Santa Barbara. I don't know how to pronounce that. At 11 p.m., the unarmed rocket known as GT-254 hit its target near the Marshall Islands in the west central Pacific Ocean, according to the U.S. Space Force. It says the missile was fired to verify the effectiveness, readiness, and accuracy according to the Air Force Global Strike Command. It allowed us to access the performance of individual components of the missile system. This is by continually assessing varying mission profiles, we are able to enhance the performance of the entire intercontinental ballistic missile fleet, ensuring the maximum level of readiness for the land-based leg of the nation's nuclear trade. The test launch comes just days after the U.S. and Israel launched an attack on Iran, killing the nation's supreme leader, setting off a war in the region. President Trump later vowed to step up strikes on Iran, warning the big one is coming. Oh, shit. The Air Force Global Strikes Command said Tuesday's test launch was routine and scheduled years advance. The Minuteman IL missile is one part of America's nuclear triad, which includes the ability to launch world-destroying weapons from the land, sea, or air. The missiles are stored in silos scattered across the American West. They're designed to deter nuclear Armageddon. And designed to deter nuclear Armageddon, but ensuring that the U.S. will be able to strike back if it is ever hit with an atomic attack. Alright, so these missiles, the Most High's instrument of death. So these missiles belong to the Most High. Psalm 7 and 13, he hath also prepared for him the instrument of death. He ordained his arrows against the persecutors. He hath also prepared for him the instruments of death. Let's get other translations. Okay, so how does GMS interpret Psalms 7 and 13? He had also prepared for him the instruments of death. He ordaineth his arrows against the persecutors. From the perspective taught by Great Millstone, Psalm 7 and 13 is usually interpreted prophetically, not just historically about David. They often apply it to Yahweh preparing judgment against the wicked, especially the enemies of Israel in the last days. Psalm 7 and 13, he hath also prepared for him the instrument of death. He ordained his arrows against his persecutors. The instruments of death. GMS commonly teaches that the instrument of death are modern weapons prepared by God for judgment, especially nuclear weapons. They're being stored up, they're being created, they're being stored up. I seen a video today of someone on the Iranian side, their news was showing like a video of what Iran has, and Iran has underground, miles upon miles underground, big giant tunnels of all these rockets, a bunch of rockets going for miles. They're all being stored up and organized and ready to use. The instrument of death are modern weapons prepared by God for judgment, especially nuclear weapons, weapons of war used by the nations. They connect this with scriptures like Isaiah 54:16 through 17, where the Most High Yahweh says he created the smith that maketh the weapons. According to GMS, that means the Lord ultimately created the technology for destruction so it can be used for judgment. That makes a lot of sense. Out of curiosity, in the NLT, Isaiah 54:15 through 17, at the top, if any nation comes to fight you, it is not because I sent them. However, whoever attacks you will go down in defeat. Let me see what it sounds like in the KJV. Behold, they shall surely gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather together against thee shall fall for thy sake. Am I reading that right? Isaiah 54:16. Oh, here we go. NLT, Isaiah 54:16. I have created this blacksmith who fans the coals beneath the forge and makes the weapon of destruction. And I have created the armies that destroy. The KJV hits a lot better. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth the instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. Let's see what verse 17 says. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. That's meaning literal. The Lord is going to protect his elect men. They're going to have an invisible force field, and they're not going to get hurt with anything. It's like ultimate mercy, the ultimate mercy, being protected on that level. It says, he ordaineth his arrows. In the ancient world, arrows were long-distant weapons. GMS often says arrows are symbolic for modern missiles, particularly ICBM and nuclear missiles. That's true. But let me see. Okay, so now we're at he ordaineth his arrows. because he hath also prepared for him the instrument of death for his judgment. He ordaineth his arrows against his. He ordaineth his arrows. Right here. In the ancient world, arrows are long distance weapons. GMS also often says arrows are symbolic of modern missiles, particularly ICMB nuclear missiles. And two precepts are 2nd Ezra 16 and 17. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp and shall not miss. Yeah, that's what it means. It does mean the missiles. Jeremiah 50 and 9. Arrows that will not return in vain. Look at that. Once they're shot, they're shot. Just like what happened right here recently with Iran. Once they were shot, they were shot. It was arrows equals missiles, nuclear weapons used in end-time judgment against the persecutors. GMS teaches that the persecutors are nations that oppress Israel. Damn, this is like sharp. Especially modern Edom, which they identify with the Western powers. Wow. So they say this verse shows God preparing weapons that will eventually be used against the oppressors of the Israelites. Yeah, they just like how, you know, they're just gonna just kill each other, and that's gonna result of the liberation of the Israelites. You know, it says so they say this. Okay, we already read that already. The bigger prophetic theme in GMS breakdown of Psalm 7 and 13 fits in the last days destruction of Babylon, which they identify with the United States, connected with prophecies in Revelation 18. That's the other's favorite chapter right there. Isaiah 13, Jeremiah 51. They teach that the Lord put the spirits on the nations to create these weapons. That's correct. And in the end, those weapons will be used at his judgment. Yeah, the Lord got them in a trick bag. That's why it says, that pride has deceived thee, O that dwelleth in the cliffs of the rocks. Because he think that he's gonna stay in power forever. It's not gonna be like that. Simple summary. Instruments of death, weapons of mass destructions, arrows of the nuclear weapons, persecutors of the enemies, oppressors of Israel, meaning the Most High Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Ba'ashim Rachakodash have prepared end times destruction for them. Wow. Update on what's going on around the world. U.S. test doomsday missiles off California coast as war in Iran rages. Verify the effectiveness. I'll put the link in the description. Lord's will you were edified and got something out of this. Shalom.